Animal production, internal parasites. Aims of lesson. At the end of the lesson, learners should be able to define concepts relating to creative thinking and problem solving. Apply the knowledge and skills associated with the topic of internal parasites as mentioned above. Introduction. Previous content that was dealt with in Term 2 must be linked to the current content. Animal health. Animal diseases. Purpose of the next lesson is to discuss the content associated with internal parasites. Concepts and skills. Parasites. Parasites are animals, insects or plants that live on another living organism, called the host, by extracting nutrients from the host. Parasites may also secrete toxins. Toxins have a greater influence on the condition of the host than the extraction of nutrients. Parasites are generally not as deadly as bacteria, viruses, and other previously discussed diseases. However, this is the reason that parasites are so dangerous. Farmers often underestimate their effect on the animal and production losses. Internal parasites. Internal parasites live inside the body of the host, where they depend on the host for food and habitat. Internal parasites cause reduced productivity, anemia, wall break, progressive weakness, death. The main groups of internal parasites. Internal parasites use nutrients from the host to multiply and survive. They occur in the digestive tract, kidneys, liver, lungs, or the bloodstream of the host animal. Internal parasites are classified according to their life cycles. The main groups of internal parasites are roundworms, nematodes, tapeworms, cestodes, flukes, trematodes. Parasites locations. Tapeworms. Tapeworms of sheep, Monoesia expansia, live in the small intestine. Tapeworms are long, flat, ribbon-shaped worms that vary in length, from 1 mm to 15 mm, depending on the species. Their bodies consist of hundreds of segments. Each segment has male and female reproductive organs. These segments are actually sacs, proglottids, filled with eggs. Tapeworms do not have a digestive system. The head part of the organism is called the scolex and contains hooks and suckers. New segments develop below the neck. General. Does not have a mouth or digestive system, absorbs digested food from the host alimentary canal. Animal hosts, sheep, goats and cattle suffer from the same types of tapeworm. 4 types in South Africa. Specific tapeworm species have specific intermediate hosts, which is always an animal that is eaten by the Natural host. Life cycle. Segments break off, are excreted with the feces and land on the ground. Intermediate host eats the eggs from the ground and the eggs hatch in their intestinal canal. Immature worms migrate to the blood vessels and are transported by the blood to specific parts of the intermediate host body where they form bladder worms or measles. Further development to the mature stage only starts when the bladder worm is ingested by its natural host. Symptoms/effects. Causes the host to deteriorate as it does not get sufficient food. Potbelly. Retarded growth and weight loss. Dry, rough hair coat and poor wool production. Proglottids, that look like cooked rice, may appear in the feces of infected animals. Digestive disorders such as blocking of the intestine may cause constipation and even death. Diarrhea. The moving segments can sometimes be seen crawling around the anus or in a bowel movement. Treatment. Treat with commercially available remedies and apply with dosing. Prevent infection by resting pastures, fencing off infected areas and breed for resistance. Roundworms, nematodes. Roundworms usually live in the abomasum of ruminants, or the small and large intestine. Roundworms have a negative effect on the host if present in large numbers, as they live on blood and nutrients that the animals need for growth and production. The life cycle of the different species differs considerably. Some roundworm species need an intermediate host that must be swallowed by the reel or end host. Some intermediate hosts pick up the parasite while sucking the end host. Some intermediate hosts pick up the parasite while sucking the end host. Most species do not need an intermediate host to complete their life cycle. Young larvae, after hatching and undergoing a number of molts, are swallowed by the natural host while they graze on the felt. General. Animal hosts, sheep, cattle and goats, mainly in summer. Widespread across SA. Life cycle. Live in abomasum. Female lays many eggs, that are excreted with feces. Eggs hatch on warm, moist felt. Larvae grow and molt twice before infectious, 6 days in ideal conditions. In moist, average light conditions, larvae move to the top of the blade of grass and are ingested by grazing animals. In dry and bright conditions, larvae hide near the ground and are mostly ingested by sheep, which are short grazers. Symptoms/effects. Parasitic gastroenteritis with watery diarrhea and weight loss. Anemia. The conjunctiva of sheep, the mucous membrane on the inner surface of the eyelid and the exposed surface of the eyeball, may be snowy white in color. Weight loss, weakness, rough coat, loss of appetite, edema especially under the lower jaw, bottle jaw. rapid breathing, pneumonia and coughing in young animals. Damage to the mucous lining of alimentary canal can cause inflammation. Treatment. Roundworm in young cattle can be controlled by broad-spectrum anthelmintic. To prevent infestation, move the cattle to clean pastures that are not contaminated or use rotational grazing. Where susceptible calves are followed by immune adults. Adult sheep must be treated 1 month before and 1 month after lambing when their immunity is low. Pastures must be rested for more than 10 weeks to reduce the number of infective larvae on the pasture. Avoid wet grazing areas. Animals must be well nourished. Drugs for roundworms include albendazole, fenbendazole, ivermectin. Liver flukes. Adult liver flukes are leaf-shaped and about 20 to 30 mm in length. Flukes have both male and female sex. Organs, they are hermaphroditic. Liver fluke disease, fasciolosis, is caused by the parasite Fasciola hepatica. Liver flukes need wet conditions because the intermediate host is a small aquatic snail. Life cycle. The eggs of the liver fluke mature in the bile ducts in the liver. The eggs pass down the ducts and into the alimentary canal and are excreted with the feces. The eggs hatch outside in the environment and develop into the active stage called myricidia. The environment must contain water in order for them to develop. The intermediate host is a snail. They must find a snail within a day to stay alive. The myricidia can either invade a host snail or they can be eaten by the host snail. They hatch in the alimentary canal of the snail into the stage called a sporocyst. After about 5 to 8 weeks, the next stage called cercary emerge from the snail and insist on the pasture. This is the infective form. At this stage they are eaten by the final host, which may be sheep, cattle or wildlife. Inside the final host, the cercary develop into the stage called metacercary, which invade the wall of the alimentary canal and travel to the liver. The immature flukes travel to the bile ducts where they suck blood, mature and start laying eggs, and the whole life cycle is repeated. The eggs are passed out via the bile into the feces. Symptoms. The immature liver fluke causes liver damage and hemorrhage while they are migrating through the liver. Adult flukes in the bile ducts feed on blood and cause anemia and sometimes bottle jaw or edema. Toxins released by the bacterium Clostridium novyi type B into the wounds caused by migrating flukes may lead to black disease that can result in sudden death. Infested animals can get wasting disease with anemia and edema. Drop in milk production. Diarrhea. Lack of appetite, weakness and emaciation. Treatment. Infestation of animals by liver fluke can be prevented by destroying the intermediate hosts, snails and slugs, by using flukicides. Chemicals for liver fluke include rifaximinide, closantel and oxyclosanide. Worming products include injections, drenches, puron or boluses. Broad-spectrum anthelmintic are effective against a wide range of parasites. Narrow-spectrum wormers target flukes and bloodsucking. Wet pastures must be avoided to prevent the snail hosts from increasing in numbers. Financial implications and detrimental effects of internal parasites. Tissue damage. Internal parasites destroy the host tissue during feeding, which ultimately leads to poor feed conversion. This is economically important, especially in an intensive production system with high feeding costs. Poor production. Many aspects of animal production improve in response to good parasite control, e.g. live mass gain, wool and milk production, calving or lambing percentage and weaning mass. Parasitism is an erosive disease. It does not cause high mortality, but simply erodes the livestock farmer's profit. High treatment costs. The price of good dewormers is high and labor costs will increase at times of livestock treatment. Livestock losses reduce the income of the farmer. Stock losses also affect the economy of the country. Loss of production includes a decrease in the quantity and quality of animal products such as meat, milk and wool. Animal carcasses that are infested with internal parasites are degraded. The consumption of carcasses infested with parasites that are harmful to human life, such as meat infested with measles, can cause serious illnesses and even death. To prevent infested animal products from entering the human food chain, daily inspections are performed at abattoirs, which is a huge financial cost for the country. The cost of treatment for internal parasites is very high. Indigenous Knowledge Systems, LKS. Bushman's poison. The roots are powdered and used to treat tapeworm. Aloe ferox, bitter aloe. The leaf sap is used to treat intestinal parasites as well as scab in sheep. It is also added to the drinking water of poultry to treat tick and lice infestations. Elephantiaza, elephant eine, eland's bean, eintololwana. The root is boiled in water, then strained and the liquid is given to cows to treat mange. Transvaal kububerry, an infusion of the bark is used as a drench to treat worm-infested calves. Stangus cycad, the rootstock is dried and grated. It is then fed to livestock to treat internal parasites. Preventative and control measures. Good nutrition. Use of feeders to prevent feed from being contaminated by feces. Providing clean drinking water. Prevention of overstocking of pastures or housing. Separating young animals from adults and letting the young ones graze first on fresh pastures. Removing dung if animals are kept in an enclosure. Isolating new livestock for about 30 days. Deworming. After treatment, allowing animals to graze on fresh pasture. Breeding of animals that are resistant to parasite infestations. Pasture management. Rotational grazing. Grazing animals on clean pastures that are not contaminated with feces. Grazing of animals such as sheep and goats that are susceptible to certain parasites on pastures grazed by. Cattle and horses that are not susceptible to the same parasites, and vice versa. Resting of infested pastures. Allowing other species that are resistant to the specific internal parasite to graze on the pasture, they act as vacuum cleaners. Avoiding vlay, wet areas to prevent fluke infestations using zero grazing, where sheep and lambs do not have access to any vegetation to prevent infection by parasites. Camps and kraals must be hygienic. Remove the manure to areas where the cattle are not grazing. Biological control. Dung beetles are helpful in removing manure from pasture, but in large herds of cattle, it is impossible to remove all the dung. Introduce natural enemies to control the internal parasites. The use of microfungi is still just experimental. Chemical control. Chemical medicines and remedies, such as anthelmintics, must be used to control and prevent infestations by parasites. Drugs can be administered in the form of drenches, tablets or injections. To prevent infestation, dose animals with the appropriate treatments, especially young ones or pregnant cows. Activities / assessment. Learners can also use the following sources of information to do activities. Relevant Grade 12 textbooks. Focus Control Textbook Grade 12. Mind the Gap Agricultural Sciences Grade 12. Pass Agricultural Sciences Grade 12, Unit 3 page 74. Pass Grade November 12th Exam Papers. Consolidation. The lesson covered the content as stipulated in the CAPS document. Learners who understand the content should apply the knowledge and skills required to successfully answers questions based on the curriculum content. Learners will be able to use the knowledge and skills as a sound foundation for progression to the next topic. External parasites.
Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more future educational videos.